Serenity Valley Stories invites you into the shadows. Like and subscribe for more tales that will haunt your nights. And now our feature presentation, Beneath the City. I don't know how long I've been here. Hours blend into days, and days blur into darkness. But I have to tell someone, anyone, what happened. My name is Tessa, and I'm a sophomore at Harding University, or at least I was. Now, I'm just another name on a list of missing girls. But I refuse to become another statistic, another shadow in the city's underbelly. It all started 3 days ago, though it feels like a lifetime. I had finished my late class and decided to walk back to my apartment instead of taking the bus. It wasn't far, just a few blocks, and the city was alive with people. I felt safe. It was the kind of false security you get when you think nothing bad will happen in a crowd. I was wrong. I didn't see them coming. 1 minute, I was walking past a row of graffiti-covered buildings, and the next, something hard hit the back of my head. The world spun, and I tried to scream, but a hand clamped over my mouth. I struggled, kicking and clawing at the air, but they were too strong. 2 men, dressed in dark clothes, dragged me into a van parked in the alley. My vision blurred, and everything went black. When I woke up, my head throbbed, and my wrists were bound with rough rope. The first thing I noticed was the cold concrete beneath me, the smell of damp earth and mildew clinging to the air. I wasn't alone. There were other girls, some crying, others too shocked to react. I counted 5 of us, all around my age, dressed in the same torn, blood-stained clothes we must have been wearing when we were taken. My heart pounded as I took in my surroundings. We were in a basement or underground bunker of some kind. The walls were made of old bricks, crumbling and covered in strange symbols I didn't recognize. A single dim bulb hung from the ceiling, casting a sickly yellow light over the room. But it wasn't the room or the symbols that terrified me most, it was the feeling of being watched. I couldn't see it, but I knew something was there, lurking just beyond the edge of the light, waiting. We weren't alone. A door creaked open, and 2 men entered. They wore black robes with hoods pulled low over their faces, but I could see their mouths, twisted into cruel smiles. Behind them, a woman followed, her face painted with intricate designs, her eyes empty of any humanity. "Welcome," she said, her voice cold and emotionless. "You have been chosen." Chosen. The word echoed in my head like a death sentence. "We serve the Master," she continued, pacing in front of us like a predator stalking its prey. "And you, his offerings, will help bring him into this world." A chill ran down my spine. I didn't understand what she meant, but I knew it wasn't good. I glanced at the other girls, their wide eyes filled with the same fear I felt. We were trapped, helpless, and at the mercy of these people. That night, the rituals began. They took one girl first, Maria, I think her name was. She screamed and fought, but it didn't matter. They dragged her into another room, and for hours, we heard nothing but the sounds of chanting, strange guttural noises that made my skin crawl. And then, silence. When they brought her back, she was barely conscious, her body covered in cuts and bruises. Her eyes were hollow, like she had seen something no one should ever see. I knew we had to escape. If we didn't, we would all end up like her, or worse. The next day, they took another girl, Jenna. The pattern was the same, screaming, chanting, and then silence. When she came back, she was different, like something had been taken from her, something vital. She didn't speak, didn't even cry. She just sat there, staring at the floor. I couldn't let that happen to me, to any of us. I had to find a way out. That night, while the others slept, I examined the room, looking for anything that could help. The walls were solid brick, and the door was thick, reinforced with iron. There were no windows, no air vents large enough to crawl through. But I wasn't ready to give up. I had to stay strong, for them. As I searched, I noticed something strange. The symbols on the walls, they weren't just random markings. They glowed faintly in the dark, pulsing with a strange energy. And in the center of the room, beneath the single light bulb, was a circular pattern etched into the floor. It looked like some kind of altar, a place of power. I didn't understand it, but I knew it had something to do with the master they spoke of. Whatever it was, it terrified me. The next morning, they took another girl, Rachel. Her screams echoed through the bunker long after she was gone. I felt sick, knowing that each of us was just waiting for our turn. By the time they brought Rachel back, I had made up my mind. We had to escape, now, before it was too late. But I couldn't do it alone. I needed help. I crawled over to Maria and Jenna, who were huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. "We need to get out of here," I whispered, glancing at the door to make sure no one was listening. "We don't have much time." Maria shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "We can't. There's no way out." "There has to be," I insisted, keeping my voice low. "If we don't try, we'll all die." Jenna remained silent, her gaze fixed on the floor, but I saw a flicker of hope in Maria's eyes. She wanted to believe me, to believe that we had a chance. "We have to wait for the right moment," I continued. "When they come for the next girl, we'll make our move. We'll overpower them, grab their keys, and run." It was a desperate plan, but it was all we had. The opportunity came that evening. The door opened, and two of the robed men entered, their eyes gleaming with malice. They headed straight for Jenna, who was too weak to fight back. I waited until they were close, my heart pounding in my chest. And then, with everything I had, I lunged at one of them, knocking him off balance. Maria followed suit, using what little strength she had left to tackle the second man. For a moment, I thought we might have a chance. But then, the door swung open, and the woman appeared, her eyes burning with fury. She raised her hand, and a force like a gust of wind slammed into me, knocking me to the ground. I gasped for breath, my vision blurring as I tried to stand. But before I could move, she was there, standing over me, her eyes cold and cruel. "You cannot escape," she whispered, her voice like ice. "The master is coming." I don't know how, but I managed to grab one of the men's keys before she dragged me to my feet. I hid it in the waistband of my jeans, praying she wouldn't notice. They took Jenna that night, and I never saw her again. I don't know what they did to her, but when they brought her body back, it was lifeless. Jenna was gone, and we were running out of time. I couldn't wait any longer. That night, while the others slept, I used the stolen key to unlock the door. My hands shook as I slowly pushed it open, praying the hinges wouldn't squeak. The corridor beyond was dark and damp, the air thick with the scent of decay. But it was our only way out. I woke Maria and the others, urging them to follow me. "This is our chance," I whispered. "We have to go now." We moved as quickly and quietly as we could, our footsteps echoing in the empty hallways. I didn't know where we were or how far we had to go, but I knew we couldn't stop. Not until we were free. But the further we went, the more I felt the presence of the demon. It was everywhere, in the flickering lights, the strange whispers that echoed in the dark, the oppressive weight that pressed down on us with every step. I could feel its eyes on me, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As we rounded a corner, we heard footsteps behind us, heavy, deliberate. They had found us. "Run!" I shouted, my voice breaking the silence. We sprinted through the maze of tunnels, our breaths coming in ragged gasps. But no matter how fast we ran, the footsteps were always there, closing in on us. I glanced over my shoulder and saw the woman, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light, leading the men in their dark robes. They were closing in. One of the girls, Sophie, stumbled, falling to the ground with a cry. I turned back to help her, but Maria grabbed my arm, pulling me forward. "We can't go back," she said, her voice trembling. "If we do, we'll all die." I knew she was right, but leaving Sophie behind was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Her screams echoed through the tunnels as they dragged her away. We kept running, the air growing colder and the whispers louder. I didn't know if we were heading deeper underground or closer to the surface, but we couldn't stop. Not now. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of running through the winding corridors, we saw a faint glimmer of light ahead. It was dim, barely more than a sliver cutting through the darkness, but it was hope. I pushed myself harder, ignoring the burn in my legs and the tightness in my chest. Maria was close behind me, the others following as best they could, their breaths ragged, their steps unsteady. The whispers in the air grew louder, more insistent, as if whatever was lurking in the shadows was angry. Furious, even. The demon, the master they worshipped, was close. I could feel it in the way the air seemed to vibrate, in the prickling sensation that ran up my spine with every step. "We're almost there," I whispered, more to myself than to anyone else. I didn't know where there was, but that sliver of light was the only thing guiding us now. We reached the end of the tunnel and found ourselves in front of a heavy metal door. I fumbled with the keys I had stolen, my hands shaking as I tried to find the right one. The footsteps behind us were getting closer. I could hear the woman's voice, chanting something low and guttural, and the sound of it sent chills down my spine. "Hurry!" Maria urged, her voice tight with fear. I finally found the key that fit and jammed it into the lock, turning it with all the strength I had left. The door groaned open, and we stumbled through it, into what looked like an old maintenance room. The dim light was coming from a single overhead bulb, flickering weakly. But it wasn't over. I knew it wasn't. I could still feel the presence of the demon pressing in on us, a weight I couldn't shake. The other girls could feel it too, I could see it in their wide eyes, their pale faces. We weren't free yet. "We need to keep moving," I said, though my voice came out as little more than a hoarse whisper. I gestured to a ladder bolted to the wall, leading up into a vertical tunnel. This might be our way out. One by one, we began to climb, our limbs trembling from exhaustion. Maria was just ahead of me, her fingers slipping on the metal rungs as she fought to pull herself up. I could hear the others behind me, their movements slow, labored. But we couldn't stop. Not now. Just as I reached halfway up the ladder, I heard a loud crash below. The metal door had been thrown open, and the chanting filled the room, louder than before. I looked down and saw the robed figures standing at the base of the ladder, their eyes glowing with an unnatural light. The woman stepped forward, her face twisted with rage. "You will not escape," she hissed, her voice echoing unnaturally in the small space. Panic surged through me, and I climbed faster, urging the others to do the same. But the woman raised her hand, and I felt a force like ice grip my ankle, pulling me down. I clung to the ladder, my knuckles white as I fought against it, my heart pounding in my chest. "No!" Maria screamed, looking down in horror. I kicked at the invisible force, my mind racing. I knew what this was, some kind of dark magic, something linked to the demon they worshipped. I had to break free. I had to. With one last desperate kick, the force loosened, and I scrambled higher, my fingers raw from gripping the metal. The chanting grew more intense, and I could feel the pull of the demon's power, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't let it win. We reached the top of the ladder, and I pushed open the metal hatch above us. Cool night air flooded in, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could breathe. We had made it to the surface. The hatch opened into an alley, somewhere deep in the city. It was quiet, the streets deserted, the buildings looming like dark sentinels. But we were free. We had escaped. I pulled myself out, helping Maria and the others follow. The relief that washed over me was overwhelming, but it was short-lived. The woman's voice still echoed in my ears, her chant a sinister reminder that this wasn't over. Not really. I helped the girls to their feet, and we stumbled through the alley, putting as much distance between us and that place as we could. I didn't look back, afraid of what I might see if I did, but I could still feel the presence of the demon lingering in the air, like a shadow that would never fully leave. By the time we reached the street, Maria collapsed beside me, her body shaking with sobs. "We did it," she whispered, her voice broken. "We're out." But I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow. We had escaped, yes, but not all of us. Sophie and Jenna. They were gone. Their screams still echoed in my mind, a reminder of what we had left behind. And even now, standing in the cool night air, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. That the demon, the cult, would come for us again. The city seemed too quiet, too still. As we stood there, I realized that I couldn't go back to my life, not the way it was before. Nothing would ever be the same. Maria looked at me, her eyes wide and haunted. "What do we do now?" I didn't have an answer. All I knew was that we had to keep moving, keep running. Because somewhere, deep beneath the city, the cult was still there. The demon was still there. And as long as they existed, none of us were truly safe. So we ran. Through the empty streets, through the darkness that clung to us like a second skin. We ran, knowing that no matter how far we went, the shadows would always follow. And I'm writing this now, because I need someone to know. Someone has to hear what happened, to believe that there's something out there, something dark, something evil, that's been hiding beneath the city all this time. If you're reading this, know that it's not over. We escaped, but we're not free. Not really. Because in the corners of my mind, in the silence of the night, I can still hear the chanting. I can still feel the demon's eyes watching. And I don't know how long we can keep running. Thank you for watching Serenity Valley Stories. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another scary tale. Share your thoughts in the comments below.